You sit down to work with complete intention. You are going to focus. You are going to be productive. You are going to finish this important task. And for the first 30 minutes, you do. Your mind is clear. Your focus is deep. You are in the zone. The work feels effortless. Ideas flow. Progress happens. But then, somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour and a half, something shifts. Your concentration begins to collapse. Your mind begins to wander. You feel an impulse to check your phone. You feel a need to get up and move. You feel resistance against the task that moments ago seemed engaging. You blame yourself. You blame your lack of discipline. You blame your attention span. You blame the task. But the neurobiological truth is very different. You are not weak. You are not lazy. You have not failed. You have reached the end of a natural biological cycle of focus, and you did not know that cycle existed. This is the hidden tragedy of modern productivity culture. We have built our understanding of productivity on a false premise. We believe that if you are productive, you should be able to focus for 8 hours straight. We believe that taking breaks is laziness. We believe that constant work is the path to maximum output. But neuroscience reveals something entirely different. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford University and one of the world's leading experts in behavioral neurobiology, has discovered something that fundamentally changes how we should approach work and productivity. Your brain is not built to focus continuously. Your brain is built to focus in cycles. Specific cycles. Measurable cycles. Predictable cycles. These cycles are called ultradian rhythms. An ultradian rhythm is a biological cycle that occurs within a 24-hour period. While your circadian rhythm is your 24-hour cycle of wakefulness and sleep, your ultradian rhythms are cycles that happen multiple times during the day. And the most important ultradian rhythm for your productivity is the focus cycle. The ultradian focus cycle, according to Huberman's research, lasts approximately 90 minutes. During these 90 minutes, your brain is neurobiologically optimized for focus. Your dopamine is stable. Your neurotransmitters are balanced. Your attention capacity is maximal. You can do deep work. You can solve complex problems. You can create. You can learn rapidly. But after approximately 90 minutes, your brain enters a period of necessary rest. Your dopamine dips slightly. Your neurotransmitters need to rebalance. Your focus capacity naturally decreases. Your body is signaling that it needs a break. But here is the problem. Most people do not understand this cycle. When their focus begins to decline after 90 minutes, they do not rest. They fight. They try to force more focus. They drink more coffee. They blame themselves. They try to motivate themselves to continue. And when they do this, when they fight against the natural ultradian cycle, they destroy everything. Their dopamine becomes dysregulated. Their focus becomes fragmented. Their productivity crashes dramatically. And they feel more exhausted because they are fighting against their own biology. This is the fundamental misunderstanding that undermines productivity for millions of people. They do not understand ultradian rhythms. They do not understand that focus is not a continuous state. They do not understand that their focus is supposed to decline after 90 minutes. They interpret this natural biological event as personal failure, and they try to overcome it through willpower and force. But willpower cannot overcome biology. Force cannot overcome neurobiology. When your neurotransmitters of focus have been depleted after 90 minutes, no amount of willpower will restore them. You need recovery. You need rest. You need to allow your brain to rebalance before you attempt another cycle of focus. Huberman explains that understanding and respecting the ultradian rhythm of focus is one of the single most important insights for improving productivity and well-being. When you work with your ultradian rhythms instead of against them, everything changes. Your focus becomes deeper during the focus periods. Your recovery becomes more complete during the rest periods. Your overall productivity increases. Your well-being improves. Your burnout decreases. Most importantly, you stop fighting against your own biology. You stop blaming yourself for being weak or undisciplined. You understand that your focus decline after 90 minutes is not a personal failure. It is a biological signal. It is your brain telling you what it needs. And when you listen to that signal, when you provide what your brain needs, your brain responds by functioning optimally. The solution is deceptively simple. Work in cycles. 90 minutes of focused, undistracted work. Then take a break. 15 to 20 minutes of genuine rest. Then another 90-minute cycle if you have more work to do. That is it. Work with your biology, not against it. This single insight, understanding and implementing the 90-minute Ultradian focus cycle, can transform your productivity, your focus capacity, your creativity, and your well-being. Not through more effort, not through more willpower, but through alignment with your actual neurobiological design. To understand why your focus breaks down after 90 minutes, you need to understand the neurobiology of focus. What is actually happening inside your brain when you are focused? What systems are active? What chemicals are involved? What happens when those chemicals run out? When you sit down to do focused work, your brain activates specific systems. Your sympathetic nervous system, your action system, engages. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for sustained attention and executive function, becomes highly active. Neurotransmitters are released to support this state of focus. The key neurotransmitters involved in focus are dopamine, noradrenalina, and acetylcholine. Dopamine provides motivation and reward anticipation. Noradrenalina increases alertness and attention. Acetylcholine is involved in learning and focused attention. When these neurotransmitters are at optimal levels, your brain is in a state of deep focus. Distractions bounce off. Your mind stays on task. Your cognitive capacity is high. But these neurotransmitters are not infinite. They are synthesized in your brain, but synthesis takes time. When you are in a state of intense focus, you are consuming these neurotransmitters at a high rate. You are using the available dopamine, noradrenalina, and acetylcholine to maintain your focus state. After approximately 90 minutes of this intense consumption, your levels of these neurotransmitters begin to deplete. Your brain does not have sufficient dopamine, noradrenalina, and acetylcholine to maintain the same level of focused attention. Your focus naturally declines. Your mind begins to wander. Distractions begin to seem more attractive. This is not failure. This is neurobiology. This is your brain telling you that it needs recovery. It needs time to synthesize more neurotransmitters. It needs time to rebalance. It needs rest. Here is what most people do wrong. When they notice their focus declining after 90 minutes, they interpret it as weakness. They try to overcome it with more willpower. They drink more coffee. They try to motivate themselves. They might succeed temporarily in increasing their dopamine through external means. But they are not solving the problem. They are making it worse. When you try to force more focus after your neurotransmitters are depleted, you are operating in a state of depletion. You are trying to maintain focus with insufficient neurochemicals. Your cognitive performance is degraded. Your mental fatigue is higher. Your burnout risk is higher. You might feel like you are working hard, but your actual productivity is lower, not higher. Huberman emphasizes that this is particularly true for cognitively demanding work. Work that requires sustained attention, creativity, complex problem-solving, or learning. This type of work is neurologically expensive. It depletes your neurotransmitters quickly. You cannot do 8 hours of deep cognitive work. You can do 90 minutes of high-quality deep work. Then you need recovery. The research is clear on this. Studies show that after 90 minutes of focused cognitive work, performance begins to decline. Not because the person became lazier, but because their neurotransmitters are depleted. If they try to push through, their performance continues to decline. If they take a break, allowing recovery, their neurotransmitters rebalance and their performance returns to baseline. This is why sleep-deprived people cannot focus well, even if they have high motivation. Their neurotransmitters are depleted from lack of sleep. No amount of willpower fixes this. The only solution is recovery. Similarly, people who have been doing intense cognitive work for extended periods without breaks have depleted neurotransmitters. Their focus is poor. Their performance is degraded. Not because they are weak, but because they need recovery. The solution is to respect the 90-minute cycle. To understand that after 90 minutes, your brain needs recovery. To provide that recovery. And to recognize that providing recovery is not laziness. It is intelligence. It is working with your biology instead of against it. Huberman also points out something important about the nature of ultradian cycles. They are not just about focus. They affect everything. Your mood oscillates in ultradian cycles. Your energy oscillates in ultradian cycles. Your hunger oscillates in ultradian cycles. Your aggression and irritability oscillate in ultradian cycles. Your entire physiology operates in ultradian cycles. But most people do not notice these cycles because they fight against them. They drink coffee when their energy is supposed to dip. They eat snacks when their hunger cycle shifts. They try to maintain focus when their focus cycle naturally declines. They are constantly working against their own biology instead of working with it. When you stop fighting the cycles and start working with them, everything becomes easier. Your energy cycles are more sustainable because you rest during the dip. Your mood is more stable because you allow recovery. Your focus is deeper because you are working with your brain's optimal cycles instead of against them. The key insight is this: your focus declining after 90 minutes is not a sign of weakness or failure. It is a sign that your brain is functioning normally. It is a sign that you have completed a natural cycle of activity. Your brain is signaling that it needs recovery. And when you provide that recovery, your brain is ready for another cycle of high-quality focus. This completely changes how you should approach your workday. Instead of trying to maintain continuous focus for 8 hours, you should structure your day around 90-minute focus cycles. You should have periods of intense focus followed by periods of genuine rest. You should do 3 to 4 90-minute cycles per day if you have full-time work. During the 90 minutes of focus, you eliminate all distraction. Your phone is away. Your email is closed. Your notifications are off. You are completely committed to the task. Your dopamine is optimized. Your focus is deep. You can accomplish significant work in 90 minutes of true focus. Then you rest. 15 to 20 minutes of genuine recovery. You walk. You stretch. You go outside. You meditate. You do something that allows your body to rest and your neurotransmitters to rebalance. You are not thinking about work. You are allowing recovery. Then you begin another cycle. Your neurotransmitters have rebalanced. Your dopamine is restored. Your focus capacity is back. You can do another 90 minutes of deep work. Over the course of a day, you can complete 3 to 4 cycles. That is 300 to 360 minutes of high-quality, deep cognitive work. That is significantly more productive than 8 hours of fragmented, low-focus, coffee-fueled work. Now let us talk about the practical implementation of the Ultradian focus cycle. This is where theory becomes practice. This is where you actually structure your day around your biology instead of against it. The protocol is straightforward but requires precision in execution. Here is what you do. First, identify a block of 90 minutes where you can work without interruption. This might be early morning. This might be late morning. This might be early afternoon. The specific time matters less than the consistency and the absence of interruption. You need 90 uninterrupted minutes. Second, eliminate all sources of distraction during these 90 minutes. Your phone goes in another room. Your email is closed. Your messaging apps are closed. Your notifications are off. You have told colleagues or family that you are not available. You have created an environment where focus is the only option. Third, identify a specific task or project to work on during these 90 minutes. Not multiple tasks. Not email. Not administrative work. A specific task that requires focus and cognitive effort. Deep work. Creative work. Complex problem solving. Learning. Something that benefits from sustained attention. Fourth, begin your 90-minute focus session. Work on your task without distraction. Your dopamine is optimized. Your neurotransmitters are at peak levels. Your focus capacity is maximal. Use this time to do your best work. Create. Solve problems. Learn. Make progress on meaningful work. After 90 minutes, stop. Do not try to push for 95 or 100 minutes. Stop at 90. Your brain has signaled that it is time for recovery. Honor that signal. Fifth, take a genuine break. 15 to 20 minutes of recovery. This is not checking email quickly or scrolling social media. This is genuine rest. You might take a walk. You might go outside. You might do some light stretching or movement. You might meditate. You might have a snack. You might take a short nap. The goal is genuine recovery, genuine rest, allowing your nervous system to shift from sympathetic action to parasympathetic rest. During this recovery period, you are not thinking about work. You are not mentally reviewing what you just did. You are allowing your brain to rest. Your neurotransmitters are being synthesized. Your parasympathetic nervous system is active. Your body is recovering. After 15 to 20 minutes of genuine rest, if you have more work to do, you can begin another 90-minute focus cycle. Your neurotransmitters have rebalanced. Your dopamine is restored. Your focus capacity is back. You are ready for another cycle of deep work. Huberman recommends that most people can do 3 to 4 90-minute cycles per day before mental fatigue becomes significant. That is 450 to 540 minutes of focused work. That is roughly 9 to 10 hours of focused, high-quality cognitive work. But here is the key. It is actual focused work, not fragmented work interrupted by email checks and notification responses. Compare this to someone who tries to work 8 hours straight without respecting ultradian cycles. They might spend 8 hours at their desk, but how much of that is actual deep focus? Probably 2 to 3 hours spread throughout the day between emails, notifications, mind-wandering, and forced focus. The person who respects ultradian cycles accomplishes more in fewer hours with higher quality work. Now, Huberman also addresses an important question. Is the 90-minute cycle exact? Is it always exactly 90 minutes? His answer is nuanced. For most people, the cycle is approximately 90 minutes, but there is individual variation. Some people might have cycles of 80 to 100 minutes. The principle is more important than the exact number. The principle is that you have a natural cycle of focus and recovery. Your specific cycle might be slightly different from someone else's. The way to identify your specific cycle is to experiment. Try 90 minutes and see how you feel. Do you hit a natural decline in focus at 90 minutes? Or does it happen at 80 minutes? Or 105 minutes? Pay attention to your body. Pay attention to when your focus naturally begins to decline. That is your ultradian focus cycle. Once you have identified your specific cycle, structure your work around that cycle. If your cycle is 80 minutes, use 80-minute blocks. If your cycle is 100 minutes, use 100-minute blocks. The goal is to work with your biology, not against it. And your biology tells you when a cycle is complete. Huberman also emphasizes that the recovery period is not optional. This is where many people fail. They understand the 90-minute focus concept. They try to implement it, but they shorten the recovery period. They think, I will just take 5 minutes to check email, then get back to work. But this defeats the purpose. The recovery period is when your neurotransmitters rebalance. It is when your parasympathetic nervous system activates. It is when your body recovers. If you cut the recovery period short, if you continue working mentally during the recovery period, you do not get the recovery you need. Your neurotransmitters do not fully rebalance. Your next cycle of focus will be less effective. The recovery period needs to be genuine recovery. 15 to 20 minutes of not thinking about work. Not mentally reviewing what you did. Not planning what you will do next. Just rest. Just recovery. Just allowing your nervous system to shift into parasympathetic mode. Huberman also addresses the question of what type of recovery is most effective. The research suggests that physical movement is particularly effective for recovery. A walk is excellent. Light exercise is excellent. Movement in nature is even better. But even simple stretching or standing and moving is better than nothing. Why is physical movement so effective for recovery? Because it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It helps clear metabolic byproducts from your brain. It helps rebalance your neurotransmitters. It shifts your physiology from sympathetic action to parasympathetic rest. This is also why people who have active jobs often have better focus capacity than sedentary people. Not because active jobs are inherently better, but because the movement provides natural recovery cycles. The parasympathetic activation allows neurotransmitter rebalancing. Another important point: the 90-minute cycles should be consistent throughout the day. You should not do one 90-minute cycle in the morning and then try to work for 5 hours straight in the afternoon. That defeats the purpose. You should structure your entire day around 90-minute cycles with breaks between each cycle. This might mean your day looks like this: 90-minute focus block, 15-minute break, 90-minute focus block, 15-minute break, 90-minute focus block, longer break for lunch, 90-minute focus block, 15-minute break, then done for the day. That is 4 90-minute blocks of focused work with recovery periods between each. This structure respects your ultradian rhythms. It provides recovery between cycles. It allows your neurotransmitters to rebalance. It results in higher quality work. It results in less burnout. It results in better well-being. The key insight is this: respecting your ultradian focus cycles is not less productive than trying to maintain continuous focus. It is more productive. You accomplish more high-quality work in fewer total hours. You feel less exhausted. You experience less burnout. You are working with your biology instead of against it. Let us talk about what actually happens when you implement the 90-minute ultradian cycle protocol consistently. Not theory. Real, measurable changes that occur in your work, your productivity, your well-being, and your relationship with work itself. The first week is often disorienting. You structure your day around 90-minute cycles. You take breaks. And it feels strange. It feels like you are not working enough. It feels like you should be able to push through. It feels like taking breaks is somehow lazy or unproductive. But this is cultural conditioning, not reality. You are actually being more productive. You are just not feeling the exhaustion that comes from fighting against your biology. That exhaustion that most people interpret as hard work is actually burnout. When you stop fighting against your biology, when you work with your cycles, that exhaustion disappears. And you interpret this as working less. But by the end of the first week, you begin to notice something. Your 90-minute focus blocks are incredibly focused. When you know you only have 90 minutes, when you know there is a break coming, your mind stays on task. Distractions seem less tempting. Your focus is deeper. You also notice that the breaks are genuinely restorative. 15 minutes of walking or movement or rest, and you feel ready for another block of work. Your mind is clearer. Your energy is restored. You can do another 90 minutes of focused work. By the second week, the pattern is becoming clear. You are accomplishing more meaningful work in your 90-minute blocks than you used to accomplish in a full day of fragmented work. Not because you are working harder, but because you are working focused. You also notice something important. You are less irritable. You are less emotionally reactive. Your mood is more stable. This is because respecting your ultradian cycles allows proper recovery of your nervous system. Your stress hormones are not chronically elevated. Your parasympathetic nervous system gets regular activation. Your mood is more balanced. By the third week, the benefits are undeniable. You are producing high-quality work. You are moving forward on important projects. You are solving problems. You are creating. And you are doing it with less exhaustion than when you tried to work continuously. Your sleep is also improving. When you respect your ultradian cycles during the day, when you allow your nervous system regular recovery, your sleep at night improves. You are less stressed. Your cortisol is more balanced. You sleep better. You wake up more rested. By the fourth week, you have established a new baseline. Your work structure is organized around 90-minute cycles. Your productivity is higher because your focus is deeper. Your well-being is higher because you are not fighting against your biology. Your burnout risk is lower because you are recovering regularly. But here is what Huberman emphasizes: this is not static. This is not something you achieve once and then coast. Respecting ultradian cycles requires consistent implementation. You need to structure every day around your cycles. You need to take your breaks seriously. You need to eliminate distractions during your focus blocks. If you stop respecting the cycles, if you go back to trying to maintain continuous focus, the benefits fade. Your focus fragments. Your productivity drops. Your exhaustion returns. This is why consistency matters. Your biology needs the regular rhythm of activity and recovery. The second important insight that emerges is about the quality of work. Huberman points out that 3 to 4 90-minute blocks of focused work produce higher quality work than 8 hours of fragmented work. Not just more work, but higher quality.
Why?
Because deep focus is required for complex problem-solving, creativity, and high-quality output. When you are constantly interrupted, constantly checking email, constantly responding to notifications, you never reach the depth of focus required for complex work. You are always in a shallow state of attention. But when you have 90 minutes of uninterrupted focus, you reach that deep state. You can think deeply. You can solve complex problems. You can create novel solutions. You can produce work that requires intellectual depth. Most importantly, you stay in this deep state for the full 90 minutes because you have respected your ultradian cycles. You are not fighting against your biology. Your neurotransmitters are at optimal levels. Your focus is deep and sustained. The work you produce reflects this deep focus. The third insight is about sustainability. Many productivity systems are not sustainable. You can push hard for a few weeks or months, but eventually you burn out. You cannot maintain the pace. You return to old patterns. But the Ultradian cycle protocol is sustainable. It is based on your actual biology. It includes recovery. It does not require continuous pushing. You can maintain this structure indefinitely. You can do 3 to 4 90-minute cycles per day, every day, for years. The rhythm is sustainable because it is based on biology. The fourth insight is about the relationship between focus cycles and dopamine. Huberman points out that respecting your ultradian cycles helps maintain healthy dopamine regulation. When you work with your cycles, you complete cycles of activity followed by cycles of recovery. Your dopamine rises during the focus cycle and then rebalances during the recovery cycle. Over time, this creates stable dopamine baseline regulation. But when you try to maintain continuous focus, when you fight against your recovery cycles, your dopamine regulation becomes dysregulated. You are constantly in a state of sympathetic activation. Your dopamine is chronically elevated or chronically depleted. Your dopamine system is not functioning optimally. By respecting ultradian cycles, you are actually optimizing your dopamine regulation. You are creating the conditions in which your dopamine system can function properly. This leads to better mood, better motivation, better focus, better overall functioning. The fifth insight is about creativity and problem-solving. Huberman emphasizes that some of your best creative insights do not happen during focused work. They happen during recovery periods. They happen during rest. They happen when your mind is not actively trying to solve the problem. This is why taking breaks is not laziness. Taking breaks is when your brain processes what you learned during the focus cycle. It is when your brain makes novel connections. It is when creative insights emerge. If you never take breaks, if you never allow rest, you miss these creative insights. You actually reduce your creative capacity. So respecting ultradian cycles is not just about recovering neurotransmitters. It is about optimizing your entire cognitive system, including your creative capacity. Now, Huberman also addresses common challenges with implementing the Ultradian cycle protocol. The first challenge is dealing with meetings and obligations that interrupt your 90-minute blocks. What if you have a meeting scheduled in the middle of your focus block? His answer is practical. Structure your calendar around your focus blocks. Protect your 90-minute blocks. Schedule meetings outside of these blocks. Communicate to colleagues that you are protecting these blocks. Most of the time, people will respect this if you are clear about it. But sometimes, unavoidable interruptions happen. When they do, you do not need to abandon the protocol. You simply acknowledge that you did not complete a full 90-minute block. You take your recovery break. Then you begin another cycle when you are available. The second challenge is the temptation to skip recovery periods. You finish a 90-minute block and think, I am on a roll, I will just keep going. But Huberman is clear. Do not do this. This is how you burn out. This is how you dysregulate your dopamine. This is how you destroy the sustainability of the system. The recovery period is essential. Take it. 15 to 20 minutes of genuine rest. Your neurotransmitters will thank you. Your next focus cycle will be better because you rested. The third challenge is dealing with environments or jobs that do not support this structure. What if you work in an environment where you cannot protect 90-minute blocks? What if you have constant interruptions? Huberman acknowledges that this is a real challenge. But he points out that even if you cannot structure your entire day around 90-minute blocks, you can structure parts of it. Maybe you can protect 1 or 2 90-minute blocks per day. You can do your most important work during these protected blocks. You can handle interruptions and reactive work during other parts of the day. It is not all or nothing. Even partial implementation of the Ultradian cycle protocol is better than none. There is a moment that comes for most people when they have consistently implemented the 90-minute Ultradian cycle protocol for several weeks. Usually around week 3 or 4. They are working in their 4th 90-minute block of the day. They complete meaningful work. They take a break. They feel restored. They realize something fundamental has shifted. Not just that they are more productive, but that their entire relationship with work has changed. Work no longer feels like something you force yourself to do through willpower and motivation. Work feels like something you can do while respecting your own biology. Work feels sustainable. This moment is powerful because it reveals a truth that most people do not understand. Your productivity is not determined by your willpower or your motivation or your discipline. Your productivity is determined by your alignment with your own biology. When your work structure respects your ultradian cycles, you can be productive. When your work structure fights against your cycles, you cannot. This means that if you have struggled with productivity, if you have felt like you cannot focus, if you have felt exhausted all the time, you might not be broken. You might simply have been working against your biology instead of with it. But when you work with your biology, when you respect your ultradian cycles, when you provide recovery between focus blocks, your productivity emerges naturally. Not forced through willpower, but emerging naturally from working with your own neurobiological design. The second insight that emerges is about the myth of multitasking and constant availability. Modern work culture celebrates people who are always on, always checking email, always responding to messages, always available. But this culture is directly opposed to respecting ultradian cycles. When you are always available, you never get 90 minutes of uninterrupted focus. You never complete a full ultradian cycle. Your neurotransmitters never fully recover. Your focus is always fragmented. Your productivity is always compromised. Huberman points out that the most productive people are not the ones who are always available. They are the ones who protect their focus time. They are the ones who disappear into 90-minute blocks of focused work. They are the ones who say no to interruptions during these blocks. This requires courage. It requires going against cultural norms. It requires communicating clearly that you are not available during your focus blocks. But it is worth it. Because respecting your focus blocks results in more productivity, higher quality work, and better well-being. The third insight is about the relationship between ultradian cycles and long-term learning and skill development. Huberman emphasizes that deep learning requires deep focus. It requires sustained attention over time. It requires completing multiple ultradian cycles while working on the same domain. When you structure your work around 90-minute cycles, when you do multiple cycles per day working on related problems or learning the same skill, you are creating the ideal conditions for deep learning. Your brain is in deep focus. Your neurotransmitters are optimized. You are making neural connections. You are building skill. This is why people who work in 90-minute cycles often develop expertise faster than people who work in fragmented, interrupted patterns. Not because they are working more hours, but because they are working in deep focus, allowing their brains to build neural connections efficiently. The fourth insight is about the relationship between ultradian cycles and creativity. Huberman points out that creativity requires both focused work and divergent thinking. Focused work during your 90-minute cycle allows you to work on a problem deeply. Rest and recovery between cycles allows your brain to make novel connections. Creativity emerges from the combination. If you never rest, if you never take breaks, your divergent thinking capacity is reduced. You are always in focused mode. You cannot access the brain states required for creativity. But if you respect your ultradian cycles, if you alternate between focused work and genuine rest, your creative capacity is optimized. This is why some of history's most creative people were disciplined about taking breaks. They worked intensely during focus periods and rested genuinely during recovery periods. They did not try to maintain continuous focus. They worked with their ultradian cycles. Now, Huberman also addresses an important question. What if you are not naturally good at taking breaks? What if you feel guilty about resting? What if your cultural conditioning makes you feel like breaks are laziness? His answer is direct. You need to change your mindset about breaks. Breaks are not laziness. Breaks are essential for productivity. Breaks allow your neurotransmitters to recover. Breaks allow your parasympathetic nervous system to activate. Breaks allow your brain to make creative connections. Breaks are where productivity is actually built. This requires a fundamental shift in how you think about work. You need to understand that productivity is not about hours worked. It is not about constant activity. It is about deep focus combined with genuine recovery. It is about working with your biology, not against it. Once you make this shift, once you understand that breaks are essential, not optional, you can implement the protocol effectively. You can take your recovery breaks without guilt. You can protect your focus blocks without apology. You can work in 90-minute cycles with confidence that you are optimizing your productivity and well-being. The fifth insight is about the relationship between ultradian cycles and burnout prevention. Burnout happens when you are constantly in sympathetic activation, when you are always on, when you never recover, when you never rest. Over time, this chronic stress state leads to burnout. But when you respect your ultradian cycles, when you regularly shift from sympathetic action to parasympathetic rest, you prevent burnout. Your nervous system gets regular recovery. Your stress hormones normalize. Your emotional resilience improves. Your burnout risk decreases dramatically. This is why people who structure their work around ultradian cycles often report better mental health and well-being than people who try to maintain continuous focus. Not because they are working less, but because they are including recovery in their work structure. They are preventing burnout at the neurological level. The sixth insight is about the relationship between ultradian cycles and physical health. Chronic stress from not respecting ultradian cycles affects more than your focus. It affects your immune system. It affects your cardiovascular health. It affects your metabolic health. It affects your overall physical health. But when you respect your ultradian cycles, when you allow your nervous system regular recovery, your physical health improves. Your immune system is stronger. Your cardiovascular system is healthier. Your metabolic function is better. Your overall physical health is better. This is why respecting ultradian cycles is not just about productivity. It is about holistic health. It is about working with your biology across all domains. Now, here is the final and most important insight. Understanding ultradian cycles and respecting them is a skill. Like any skill, it takes practice. The first week might feel awkward. You might feel like you are not working hard enough. You might feel guilt about taking breaks. But as you persist, as you continue to structure your work around 90-minute cycles, the skill develops. It becomes natural. You stop fighting against your biology. You start flowing with your biology. Your productivity increases. Your well-being improves. Your relationship with work transforms. And then you realize something profound. You were never lacking in discipline or focus or capability. You were simply working against your own biology. When you work with your biology instead of against it, everything becomes easier. Not because you became a better person, but because you aligned your work structure with your neurobiological design. You are now at a decision point. You understand the science of ultradian rhythms. You understand how 90-minute focus cycles can transform your productivity. You understand the protocol. You understand the timeline. You understand what your brain and body actually need. But understanding is not action. And action is everything. The question is not whether you understand ultradian rhythms. The question is whether you are willing to restructure your work around them. Are you willing to protect 90-minute focus blocks? Are you willing to take genuine breaks between blocks? Are you willing to say no to interruptions during your focus time? Are you willing to go against cultural norms that celebrate constant availability? This is where most people fail. Not because the science is wrong. Not because the protocol does not work. But because they are not willing to change their behavior. They understand the science intellectually, but they do not implement it consistently. They try it occasionally. They do it when they remember. They do it when it is convenient. And because they do not do it consistently, they do not get the results. But here is what the research shows. If you can commit to structuring your work around 90-minute cycles for just 4 weeks, if you can protect your focus blocks and take your recovery breaks, your productivity will transform. Not because you suddenly became a different person, but because your work structure is aligned with your neurobiological cycles. Your focus deepens naturally. Your productivity increases naturally. The initial restructuring is the hardest part. The first week will feel like you are working differently. Something that takes time. Something that disrupts your normal routine. You will want to skip breaks. You will want to continue working when a cycle ends. You will want to check email during your focus block. Every focus block will feel like a choice. But by the third week, something shifts. Your brain begins to expect 90-minute cycles. Your body begins to prepare for breaks. The rhythm becomes natural. By the fourth week, structuring your work around 90-minute cycles has become automatic. You do not think about it. It is just how you work now. And at that point, you will look back and barely recognize your former self. The person who could not focus for more than a few minutes before getting distracted. The person who felt exhausted at the end of every day. The person who struggled with productivity despite trying hard. That person is gone. You have been rebuilt. Your work structure has been reorganized around your actual biology. Your focus has deepened. And here is the insight that changes everything. You realize that you were never weak. You were never lacking in discipline or focus or motivation. You were simply working against your own biology. You were trying to maintain continuous focus when your neurotransmitters were depleted. You were ignoring your ultradian cycles. And your brain and body responded by producing poor focus and exhaustion. But when you work with your cycles, when you respect your biology, when you provide recovery, your brain responds by producing deep focus. Not through force. Not through willpower, but through biology. Your brain is not your enemy. Your brain is a system that responds predictably to how you treat it. Provide the conditions it needs, and your brain produces the results you want. This is why Huberman is so passionate about ultradian rhythms. He has seen the research. He understands the mechanism. He has watched thousands of people restructure their work around 90-minute cycles and transform their productivity and well-being. Not because they became different people, but because they worked with their own neurobiology instead of against it. The second powerful insight that emerges is about the cascading benefits. Restructuring around ultradian cycles does not just improve your focus. It improves your well-being. It improves your mood. It improves your sleep. It improves your creativity. It reduces your burnout risk. It improves your physical health. All of these benefits come from one change, aligning your work structure with your ultradian cycles. This is the power of working with fundamental biology. When you align your work structure with your neurobiological design, everything that depends on proper nervous system function improves. You do not have to fix each problem separately. You fix the foundation, and everything built on top of the foundation improves as well. The third insight is about long-term sustainability. Most productivity systems are exhausting. They require constant effort. They require constant willpower. They are not sustainable. You eventually burn out and return to old patterns. But the Ultradian cycle protocol is sustainable. It is based on your actual biology. It includes recovery. It does not require continuous pushing. You can structure your work around 90-minute cycles indefinitely. You can do this for years. The rhythm is sustainable because it is based on how your brain actually works. The fourth insight is about the simplicity and universality of the protocol. Ultradian rhythms are not unique to you. They are universal to human neurobiology. Everyone has 90-minute focus cycles. Everyone needs recovery between cycles. Everyone is more productive when working with their cycles than against them. This means that regardless of your job, your industry, your circumstances, the principles apply. Whether you are a writer, a programmer, a business executive, a student, a creative, the 90-minute cycle protocol works. It is not complicated. It is not industry-specific. It is based on universal human neurobiology. Now, Huberman also addresses the question, what if my job or circumstances make 90-minute cycles impossible? What if I have constant interruptions? What if I cannot protect focus time? His answer is direct. Do your best with what you have. Even if you cannot structure your entire day around 90-minute cycles, you can structure parts of it. Maybe you can protect 1 or 2 90-minute cycles per day for your most important work. You can handle reactive work and interruptions outside these protected blocks. Partial implementation is better than none. The goal is not perfection. The goal is alignment. The goal is working with your biology as much as your circumstances allow. The fifth insight is about the role of intentionality. Respecting ultradian cycles requires intentionality. You cannot accidentally respect your cycles. You need to deliberately structure your day. You need to deliberately protect your focus blocks. You need to deliberately take your recovery breaks. You need to deliberately communicate to others that you are unavailable during focus time. This intentionality is not burdensome. It is liberating. When you are intentional about your ultradian cycles, when you deliberately structure your work around them, you take control of your productivity and well-being. You stop being a victim of constant interruptions. You stop being a slave to reactive work. You become the architect of your own productivity. The bottom line is this: ultradian rhythms are real. They are biological. They are powerful. Respecting them is one of the most effective ways to improve your productivity, your focus, your creativity, and your well-being.